Hello everyone and welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Lee project. In the last episode, we worked on the interior, and then we buttoned it up so it will never be seen from again. Well, in this episode, we're going to work on the exterior, and we're going to take a couple of steps forward, a few steps backwards, do a little scratch build and conversion along the way. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's get started. Well, for this episode, what I thought I might do is light my model on fire. I thought that would be nice and entertaining. But in actuality, I just want to use some heat here to anneal these little photo etch parts, especially the tool straps, just making them a little bit easier to bend and conform around the parts. Of course, if you didn't want to do this, you don't have to. You could also substitute in a little strip of Tamiya tape or even some typing paper, just to give those straps a little bit more natural fold and appearance. Changing focus to the front end of the vehicle, again, photo etch is used rather sparingly on this kit, but in the case of these headlight guards, the photo etch looks so much better than some thick plastic, and of course some other little doodads get photo etch treatment as well. And really, in no time at all, the model really comes together, and it's looking really great. But there's a bit of an issue here. In my haste to kind of construct this model and keep it moving forward, I kind of stopped looking at my reference photographs and, well, I've done a few things that I'm going to have to go backtrack on and fix before we can move forward. So as I was looking through my references, I kind of decided to focus in on this one particular vehicle, and its name is Cossack, and luckily, the Echelon decal sheet has Cossack as one of its options. Well, that's handy. There's a few changes I need to make. First, the rear stowage lockers, well, those are obviously not present as shown in this photograph, so those need to be popped off. Now, luckily, those popped off fairly easily. The only unfortunate thing is the instructions have you remove the rivet heads in order to place the boxes, so I need to replace those rivet heads using the punch and die. Now, that really wasn't so bad, but it was a step backwards. But now we're ready to start rocking and rolling again. Well, being quite honest here, I really don't have a good understanding of what this added armor really looks like. I know that they came from some Stewart parts that have been cannibalized, but really the only references I have are from these rather blurry photographs. So I'm not exactly sure the size or even the whole shape of these. Now, at first glance, Cossack has all the same traits as we talked about before, the add-on armor to the rear, the little side armor, and the tracks to the front of the hull. And look at the photographs and kind of get a basic shape and size of this thing. And then I go ahead and I measure it out on a piece of paper, and that will be a template that I can use to put up against the model just to see if it looks good, or at least close enough. I ended up doing a couple of different test fits using the paper, just changing the shapes and sizes slightly until, well, I found something that I was happy with. And then I just simply transferred those sizes and shapes onto the plastic styrene and cut out the parts that I'll be using for this added armor. As I continue to kind of look at these photographs, I notice what, at least in my eye, looks like rivets around the exterior edges of these armor plates. And if these were Stewarts, well, that just indicates they were taken from early version Stewarts with the riveted holes. So I'll need to add some rivet lines across these plates as well, and for that I'll just use some 10/1000 plastic sheet here and stamp it out with a little punch and die. Now, while this, of course, is punching out in a flat head, not a rounded head, if you add just a touch of glue over the top of these once they're secure, it melts the plastic just enough, especially at this scale, so that you get that nice rounded look. Once the glue is set on these parts, I just go ahead and secure them onto the side of the hull. Well, after gluing those on, you would have thought I've learned my lesson by now, but I started looking at those reference photographs, and it really appears as if there's a gap between the new armor, the added armor, and the hull itself. So I went ahead and popped those off, added a little bit of a spacer in there, and then reattached them just to give me that little bit of a gap. And while I was working on things, I went ahead and used some stretch sprue and added some weld beads around some of these different areas. Okay, one more thing to take care of here, and this one's a little bit more significant. Well, I'm not really sure how I missed it, but, well, actually, I do probably know how I missed it. I was focused on the turret in order to get them matching what these Burma leaves look like, and I totally missed that they also had the side crew hatches, which of course my kit does not. So I'll need to make some new hatches and kind of retrofit this to look more in keeping with the Lees in Burma. And so once again, I get to do a little bit of scratch building or conversion work. By now, if you've watched a few of my videos, you know that I'm not real shy about getting into a little bit of scratch build or conversion work. I actually find it very, very enjoyable. I've talked about this before, and it's worth mentioning again. You know, when you do this type of work, part of the anxiety is just trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. It might seem a little bit overwhelming. The trick is to simply break down the part that you're trying to make into all its little subcomponents. Look at it and try to find the squares, the rectangles, the cylinders, and things like that. I've talked about this before. So on these crew hatches, really, we're just dealing with some rectangles and triangles, all very easy shapes to work with. And so once you have your part that you want to make broken down into all the different shapes and sizes in your head, then it's just a matter of finding or creating all those little shapes and sizes and putting them together. And as you can see, just a few little squares and rectangles added together, it's already starting to look the part. I already have a door with some hinge plates. On the other side, the right side, now that already had a vision port there, but of course now I need a door. So I'm just going to do a little bit of cosmetic work here just to fill up that hole, just to plug it up. And so once I get this insert in there, I'll go ahead and sand this smooth and it will be good to go. And really, in no time at all, I have all the parts to make these crew hatches. Really, the only question was whether to assemble the hatch separately and then add it to the model, or to go ahead and just assemble everything on the model. And I've chosen to do the second, assemble it on the model, as I think that's going to be a little bit simpler. And as you can see, this process is really very simple. Having all the parts already pre-cut, it's just a matter of assembly. The door was placed first, and then now all those little pieces of rectangle, I'm going to add those on, and those are the hinge plates. And then I have a little bit of round styrene stock here, and I've cut that to size, and those are the hinges themselves sitting in the corner. Smaller size strip is used, and those become some of the hinge brackets. And like I said, it couldn't be easier. I guess all that I'm saying is, if you haven't tried this type of work before, I really encourage you to give it a shot. As you can see, it's not that difficult, and it's really very highly rewarding to be able to change kits or modify kits as you see fit. Now, in terms of these hatches, these new hatches, there is one aspect that was a little bit trickier, and that would be the vision blocks. So, of course, on the right side, I removed the vision block, so I'll be able to reuse that. But on the left side, I needed to fabricate one, and unfortunately, I didn't have the camera rolling while I did that, so you'll just have to trust me that I made a new vision block. And then finally, there are some grab handles over the doorways, and those were just simply made from some wire bent to shape and then inserted into the side of the tank. Well, now that we've got that behind us, we can go ahead and continue to move forward. Next up, tracks. Well, this is my first experience with a mini art kit, and as such, my first experience assembling mini art kit tracks. I had considered purchasing aftermarket tracks for this project, but tracks are expensive, and I decided to wait and see what came in the box. Now that I have them in hand, I will say that they are very, very nice tracks. I will also say that they take a very, very long time and are kind of tedious to put together. I think I ended up spending something like 4 to 5 hours per side on these tracks, and unfortunately, a lot of that time was just on simple cleanup of the parts. But once the parts are cleaned up and you're ready to go, I did find a rhythm and a routine, and once I got into that, they did assemble fairly quickly, and they, like I said, they look great, and best yet, they're even workable. Since I was spending my day working on tracks, I went ahead and finished up with these AFV Valentine tracks for the front hull. And I think it's a good time to call this episode complete. Now, this episode was a little different than I had planned. Took a few steps backwards before we were able to really move forward, but we're in a good spot now, and I think the next episode will be about painting. Well, I hope you got something out of this episode, and if you did, and if you like the content, please hit that like and subscribe. It does help. If you do like this channel and would like to support it further, I'm happy to let you know that I do have a Patreon page, and the link is below in the description. Patreons enjoy high-resolution photographs of the current projects, sneak peeks into upcoming projects. I do produce some longer form videos where I go into more techniques and tricks, and they also receive discounts at the Propaganda merchandise store, and the link for that store is also in the description below. So until next time, happy modeling, and we'll see you soon. Take care, guys.